Yamuna Tira Yamuna Tira Vanachari Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Iskon Govind ki jai, Shaprapad ki jai, Shishikotan Taimai Prashashi ki jai, Gaur Premanandi. So, I'll read from that first. And I want to read from Madhvacharya first. Really? Well, okay. Shishikotan Taimai Prashashi ki jai. Reading from Nectar of Devotion. Reading from Nectar of Devotion, spontaneous devotional service. Sometimes an impersonalist may gradually elevate himself to the personal conception of the Lord. Bhagavad Gita confirms this. After many births and deaths, he who is actually in knowledge surrenders unto me. By such surrender, an impersonalist can be elevated to the Vaikuntha Loka spiritual planet, where as a surrendered soul he attains bodily features like those of the Lord. In the Brahmanda Purana it is stated, those who have achieved liberation from material contamination and those who are demons and are killed by the Supreme Personality of Godhead become absorbed in the Brahman concept of life and reside in the spiritual sky of the Brahmajyoti. That spiritual sky is far beyond the material sky and is confirmed also in Bhagavad Gita that beyond this material sky there is another eternal sky. The enemies and the impersonalists may be allowed to enter into this Brahman effulgence, but the devotees of Krishna are promoted all the way to the spiritual planets. Because the pure devotees have developed their spontaneous love for the Supreme Personality of Godhead, they are allowed to enter into the spiritual planets to enjoy spiritual bliss in association with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Shri Bhakti Samhita. So today is the disappearance day of Srimad Vacharya, who is the Acharya of our Sampradaya. So Srimad Vacharya appeared near Udupi, Karnataka in South India. He was considered an incarnation of Vayu, the wind god, and he had an unusually strong physique and extraordinary intellectual power. Once a fierce tiger attacked Madhvacharya's sannyas disciple, Satyajit. Madhvacharya wrestled Madhvacharya took Diksha, sannyas. Pure interpretation of Vedanta Sutra with the hope of meeting Shri Vyasadeva himself, Madhvacharya walked up the Himalayas. Vyasadeva gave him a Shalagram Shila called Ashtamurti, approved his Bhagavad Gita commentary, and blessed Madhvacharya with deeper realizations of the Shastras. So his spiritual master is Vyasadeva personally, his initiating spiritual master. In Udupi, Madhvacharya installed a beautiful deity of Gopal, standing alone on a stick. This deity manifested from within a chunk of Gopi Chandan, sacred clay. He established 8 mats, temples to lovingly serve Udupi Krishna. The sannyasi leaders of each mat worshipped the Krishna deity with a rigorous regimen of ceremonial ritual, punctuality, and impeccable personal conduct. The Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya originates with the Madhvas. Srila Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his followers thoroughly studied Madhva's works before compiling their philosophy. For the Satsandarbhas, Sri Jiva Goswami drew heavily from Madhva's writings. Jiva Goswami found that the Gaudiya philosophy of Achinta Bheda Bhed Tattva in Madhva's Bhagavatam Madhvacharya serves as a Madhvacharya. Commentary on Priya concept in the temple of Ananteshwar in 1378 AD. He lived for 79 years. And I heard that he actually just disappeared in everyone's sight. He just disappeared on the spot. He left his chadar, but his body had disappeared. As he was giving his commentary on the Atirya Upanishad. So Madhvacharya Prabhu Mahaprabhu Madhvacharya Ki Jai. Yeah. So that seating place where he was sitting is actually considered very sacred, and they still keep, do some worship there. Adupi. And Udupi Krishna, we went there and seen the Udupi Krishna. He's a very small deity, though. You have to look through this little window to see him. Yes, it's in the previous Dwapara Yuga, that deity was worshipped by Rukmini. It's a Bal Gopal deity, and then over time it got lost, and then it was found in a Chandan, big block of Chandan, Gopi Chandan, and Madhvacharya was given that, and then he found the deity within this big block of Chandan. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 7, Chapter 12. So I'll be doing verses 17 to 24. Is that right? Okay. So maybe I'll just read through the Sanskrit translation and then to the end, to the final verse. So this is text 17. Vanaprasthaya vakshyami niyamam munisham samatam yanastaya muni gachet rishi lokam uhanjasa. O king, I shall now describe the qualifications for a vanaprastha, one who has retired from family life. By rigidly following the rules and regulations for the vanaprastha, one can easily be elevated to the upper planetary system known as Maharloka. Text 18. Na krishta pachyam ashniyad akrishtam chapya kalata agni pakvam atamam va arka pakvam utaharet. A person of vanaprastha life should not eat grains grown by tilling of the fields. He should also not eat grains that have grown without tilling of the field but are not fully ripe. Nor should a vanaprastha eat grains cooked in fire. Indeed, he should eat only fruit ripened by the sunshine. Text 19. Vanes charu parodashan nirvapet kala choditan labde nave navinyan nadyai puranam cha parityayat. A vanaprastha should prepare cakes to be offered in sacrifice from fruits and grains grown naturally in the forest. When he obtains some new grains, he should give up his old stock of grains. Agniyarthameva sharanam utajam vadrikandaram shayetahim vayuagni varsha kapata sat swayam. A vanaprastha should prepare a thatched cottage or take shelter of a cave in a mountain only to keep the sacred fire. But he should personally practice enduring snowfall, wind, fire, rain, and shining of the sun. Text 21. Kesha Roma Naka Smashru Malani Jatilo Dadat Kamandal Ajine Danda Valkagni Parichadan. The vanaprastha should wear matted locks of hair on his head and let his body hair, nails, and moustache grow. He should not cleanse his body of dirt. He should keep a water pot, deerskin, and rod, wear the bark of a tree as a covering, and use garments colored like fire. Text 22. Jadedvane dvada shabdam astova chaturo muni dvavikam ya yata buddhir na vipadyeta kuchata. Being very thoughtful, a vanaprastha should remain in the forest for 12 years, 8 years, 4 years, 2 years, or at least 1 year. He should behave in such a way that he will not be disturbed or troubled by too much austerity. Text 23. Yada kalpa swakriyayam vadyadabir jarayatava anvikshayakam va vidyayam guryad anashanodikam. When, because of disease or old age, one is unable to perform his prescribed duties for advancement in spiritual consciousness or study of the Vedas, he should practice fasting, not taking any food. This is text 24. Okay, this we'll just do together. Atmani Agni Samaropya Sanyasam Mamatmatam Karaneshu Nyaset Samyak Sangatam tu Yatarhata Atmani Agni Samaropya Sanyasam Mamatmatam Karaneshu Nyaset Samyak Sangatam tu Yatarhata Atmani Agni Samaropya Sanyasam Mamatmatam Karaneshu Nyaset Samyak Sangatam tu Yatarhata Atmani Agni Samaropya Sanyasam Mamatmatam Karaneshu Nayasat Samyak Sangatam tu Yatarhata Atmani Agni Samaropya Sanyasaham Mamatmatam Karaneshuna Satsamyak Sangatam tu Yatarhata Atmani Agni Samaropya Sanyasaham Mamatmatam Karaneshuna Satyamyak Sangatam tu Yatarhata Atmani, in oneself. Agni, the fire elements within the body. Samarupya, properly placing. Sannyas, giving up. Aham, false identity. Mam, false conception. Atmatam, of the bodies being oneself or one's own. Karaneshu, in the 5 elements that cause the material body. Nyasat, one should merge. Samyak, completely. Sangatam, combination. Tu, but. Yatha arhata, as it befits. Translation. He should properly place the fire element in its own self, and in this way give up bodily affinity by which one thinks the body to be one's self or one's own. One should gradually merge the material body into the five elements: earth, water, fire, air, and sky. Please repeat. He should properly place the fire element in his own self. And in this we give up bodily affinity, by which one thinks the body to be one's self or one's own. One should gradually merge the material body into the five elements: earth, water, fire, air, and sky. Purport by Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. The body is an effect of a cause, namely the five material elements: earth, water, fire, air, and sky. In other words, one should know perfectly well that the material body is nothing but a combination of the five elements. This knowledge constitutes merging of the material body and the five material elements. Merging into Brahman in perfect knowledge means understanding perfectly that one is not the body but a spiritual soul. So, Om Jnanatimidandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurumritanina Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobestam Stapitam Yena Putali Swayam Rupa Kadammayam Dadati Swapadantikam. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama. Properly place the fire and then what is and in this way, when the husband becomes attached and family affection, then he sends his wife back to get taken care of by the elderly children, and he takes sannyas. This was the system. And sannyas life means to dedicate completely for the service of the Lord. That's the purpose of it. It's not just another thing to do, but the whole point of it is to dedicate completely to the service of the Lord. And in Prabhupada in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, he says that in the Krishna consciousness movement, there are many young couples engaged in the Lord's service. Eventually, they are supposed to take vanaprastha, and after the vanaprastha stage, the husband may take sannyas in order to free. The wife may then remain alone and serve the deity or engage in other activities within Krishna consciousness movement. So this is Prabhupada's modern Krishna conscious way of doing it. And then, so as we were reading in this, it seems like quite austere way of life, you know. You're not supposed to take a bath, you're not supposed to clean yourself, you're supposed to let your hair and nails grow, you're supposed to not eat cooked things, just find whatever you find in the forest and eat that, grains and roots and fruits and berries, and tolerate all the elements like what's it called? Should personally practice enduring snowfall, wind, fire, rain, and the shining of the sun. It's quite, apart from the shining of the sun, it's quite good for Scotland to perform vanaprastha. So the steam and the rheumatic locks, they keep a water pot, deer skin, wear tree bark, and garments coloured like fire. And it's expected that they at least go to the forest for 1 year to practice vanaprastha, but could remain for 12 years or more. And so he has to practice this austerity, and then when he gets older or his body gets diseased, then he's supposed to give up eating. They practice fasting, not taking any food. And in this way, gradually they get detached from the bodily demands and become free from the bodily attachments, and then they can actually, it's described that they actually, burn up their body through the fire element. And we can see that in many cases in the Bhagavatam. It's described like when Dhritarashtra and Gandhari go to the forest, and he was forced to go to on vanaprastha. He didn't do it voluntarily. He was forced by Vidura, telling him that you're living off the remnants of Bhima, and your teeth are falling out, your hair is falling out, and you're in such a bad state. So we should give up attachment to this kingdom and just go to the forest. So then when he does, then it shows that he performs this Astanga Yoga process, and eventually he burns up his body with the fire element, and the thatched cottage burns up, and then Gandhari goes into the fire to follow her husband. So this is what happened in those days. But I mean, is the Vanaprastha ashram relevant in the modern day? Well, Krishna's created the Varnashram system, so this Vanaprastha stage is very important because most people, almost devotees, will be going through the Grihastha ashram, and then they have to get eventually detached from this ashram and become more and more absorbed in spiritual life. So it's a very important ashram, because if we don't get this done properly, then we'll end up coming back again in another life to go through Grihastha ashram again. So according to the certain phases in our life, this is one of the last stages of our life. It's really meant so we can concentrate ourselves and prepare ourselves to go back to Godhead. So, and we want to do this in the most fearless way, in the most glorious way we can. We don't want to become so attached that we're just afraid of losing everything, So, otherwise, what will happen is if we get stuck in the Grihastha ashram, we'll be thinking, well, I want to wait to see my grandchildren, and then I want to see them getting married, and then it will so on and so on, and we'll never get out of this Grihastha ashram. Keep rotating. we may not be able to practice this Varnashram as is stated here, all this going to the forest and doing this, wearing tree bark and matted blocks and these austerities, but we can understand the principles of the Varnapasta stage, the Varnapasta ashram, and this is what we need to take from this is the principles, maybe not the application, maybe not the details of the application, but the principles. And so the principles, for one of the principles is no sex life. So Vanaprastha stage is no sex life. And another one is in reducing worldly activities and engagements. Actually, through that phase of life and grown up, and we are passing on things. It's reducing our worldly affairs and increasing our absorption in spiritual activities like Shravanam, Kirtanam, we can hear and chant more, we become more developed internally than rather than externally. And so charity, raising material conflicts and material attachments, switch from the external achievements. We may have achieved so much through the other ashrams, but when we come to the Vanaprastha ashram, then we want to get free from, we want to switch from these external achievements to internal achievements, because our body forces us when we're in this stage. Our body forces us to give up, because our body is aging. So it's not suitable that we run around doing so many things anymore. So we're forced to make shifts so that we can become more in internal activities and deepen our spiritual practices. So because the body is actually aging, it's becoming diseased, or it's not functioning like normal, it's becoming decaying. So, we can't hear properly, we can't see properly, our body is not able to be as agile as when we were younger. So we have to switch from trying to achieve external things. So this is the main thing, that the Vanaprastha is supposed to delegate the activities to the younger generation, like not only in family life but in our services. Meant to pass on the baton to the next generation so they can take it up, and we're not meant to hang on to our responsibilities to our last breath till we're, we need to pass it on. We need to inspire the younger generation to take up the services. And really the Vanaprastha should be giving guidance and wisdom. This is actually the main thing. They can share life experiences, give wisdom, and, with affection, try to help the younger generation move up and take up the responsibilities. So Vanaprastha is, we simplify our surroundings instead of having so many comforts, cozy sofas and so many things in the house and cluttering it up with unnecessary things. We try to get rid of things, try to simplify our life with the bare necessities. We don't really need so much, we just need like a bed, a table, a chair. We don't need like a whole big arrangement of so many things in the house, and can just become free from all these entanglements, attachments to bodily comforts. And when we get rid of all the clutter, our minds will be a lot more peaceful and satisfied. Because as grihastas, we just accumulate things, unnecessary things. I mean, of course, with children, there's so much stuff for the children. I don't personally have, but I've seen others who have got children, how everything is centered around the children for years, and the children have so many toys, so many things. It just becomes unbelievable. And then as we get free from the Grihastha ashram, we can get rid of all the clutter from the house. And ultimately, we can't take all these things with us, so we have to leave them behind eventually. So we might as well start becoming detached before the last, for the end. So also we can, simplify our external appearance. The material body anyway naturally becomes less attractive. We start getting grey hair, we start losing our teeth, we have wrinkles, so it's already less attractive. So we don't have to try to decorate it with nice, costly saris and jewellery and everything, for women. For men, I don't know what we do to try to make themselves attractive, but we can simplify our life, simplify our appearance. And that's also helpful because we want to be as simple as possible, so with less attachments to all these bodily needs, and also simplify our eating. If we were to go to the forest, we wouldn't be eating a big Sunday feast once a week. Maybe eating like roots and fruits, berries, simple things, whatever we find. So we have to start to give up the demands of the tongue for tasting nice, enjoying things. And the body actually forces us to do that, because as we get older, the fire of digestion is very, very weak. It becomes weaker and weaker, so we can't really digest things very easily as we get older. So the more simpler prasad, the easier it is to digest, and we can function better. So it's one of the most difficult things to do is control the tongue, isn't it? It's the most voracious and uncontrollable. But we're forced to do it because, the fire digestion is not so good. So we can't eat all those things we used to as a young devotee. All the fried things and all the rich prasadam is very difficult to digest. So, in material life, generally people want to enjoy till the very end. They don't think, it's like they want to, enjoy as much as they can till the very last, till death, so they go on cruises around the world to enjoy comforts, enjoy nice foodstuffs, to go to so many different places. So, but actually in spiritual life, it's the complete opposite. So instead of trying to enjoy to the end, we're supposed to give up comforts and reduce enjoyment and increase our spiritual practices. And this is actually a preparation for death, because at the end we need to become free from all go through the last phase of life in a proper way. And so like when we're 50, 55, then this is the age we're supposed to move into the vanaprastha stage of life, and detach ourselves from world and go to, so that we can, increase our own hearing and chanting, our internal development, and go deeper in our own Krishna consciousness. And in this way, perfect our life and go back by going back to Godhead. So that's the principle behind the Vanaprastha ashram. It may be different how we're applying it in the modern age, but we have to still become detached from the material world, and attached to Krishna, and attached to devotional service, spiritual activities. And there's so many examples where in the Bhagavatam is described how, and most of them are great kings. They've got so much like opulence, kingdom, wealth, riches, opulent living, and they just become detached at that point in time. When they reach the vanaprastha stage, they just become detached, and they just leave everything behind and go to the forest and practice austerities. Sometimes they go with their wife, sometimes they go alone, but there's so many examples, like Rishabhadev, he gave up everything, just became like an avadut. And Bharat Maharaj gives up everything, goes to the forest, and Yudhisthira Maharaj, as soon as he heard that Krishna had left, then he just gave the throne to Parikshit Maharaj and just decided to go detach himself from all worldly duties. We mentioned Dhritarashtra and Gandhari, and Pritha Maharaj and Archie, they also did the same. So this is a natural stage where we come to at a certain point, and we detach ourselves from family duties, responsibilities, and just dedicate our life to spiritual activities. So, is anyone going in questions or comments at this point?
Yeah, I was just wondering. We have the old-fashioned way of doing it, and then the new way of doing it, which has been updated by Srila Prabhupada. So will it be, as we go on, will it get updated again or will it just stay at this standard now for the next 10,000 years?
I can't answer that question. I don't know what the future holds. But everything, like, as long as the principles are there, the details may change, but the principle is trying to be detached from this material world and more attached to spiritual activities and deepening our own spiritual life and deepening our own Krishna consciousness.
It mentions that you should fast if you become at least then anyway.
Possibly. I'm not sure. It says he should practice fasting. So practice means that he should maybe take less things, and eventually he may not need anything to eat,
Yeah, when Srila Prabhupada was sick, he was fasting and he said, I am fasting and I am living, and you are eating, but you are dying. Meaning that by fasting, it's actually good for your body, whereas if you're eating all the time, it's actually wears the body down.
Mm-hmm. Well, we have days where we can fast, like Ekadashis and appearance days of so many personalities. So it helps the system, by fasting. It's harder to fast as we get older, though. But we can reduce our eating to a certain amount.
In Krishna consciousness, we have like Krishna's planning things so that when we die, we'll be ready. So our death comes at the moment, when he. Krishna consciousness so strongly, and then he dies, then could that be an untimely death, or will Krishna still make the arrangement for him to leave and that he's prepared at the appropriate time?
Do you have an answer to your question? I mean, Krishna, he's looking after everyone's fully complete in his Krishna consciousness this life. So he'll get what he's from whatever he's done in this life, he'll move on to another life when he can continue on practicing Krishna consciousness from that point on. So, does that answer your question?
Yeah, I was just thinking, I read this morning that when Krishna went to retrieve the son for the Sandipani Muni, then eventually he went to Samyayani, Yamaraja's abode, and he blew the conch shell, and Yamaraj came out and gave him Badamangal. And it said that when Krishna blew the conch shell, all the fires in Kumbhakan stopped burning, and all the torches stopped going on in the hellish planets, and they were all liberated.
That's Krishna's special mercy.
Yes, I was just thinking, Krishna can intervene.
Krishna can do anything, he's independent, but we can't just think, we can't just rely upon that. We have to perform the activities to get his mercy. We can't just not do, Krishna can, if he wants, he can give us, pure love of God, at some point, whenever he wants, but it generally doesn't happen. We have to work for it, we have to pay the price. So, in rare occasions when special mercy, that's kripa siddhi. That's not the norm, though. The normal is going through Vaidhi Bhakti. Anybody else? Question? The Vanapasta stage is, is a very important part of our development in our Krishna consciousness. And I'm not sure how, we're all, depending on Krishna, we're performing bhakti yoga to come to the point where we can become absorbed, our minds, and in Krishna consciousness. But here they're showing how in previous ages they would go to the forest and they perform this Astanga yoga process, and the body would burn up for the fire element, and they become detached from everything. All the elements will go back into the various places it should. The earth element will go into the earth, the fire element will go into the fire. So all these elements, earth, water, fire, air, and sky, that's what the body is made up of, ultimately. All bodies are made up of these 5 things in different proportions and different variations. That's why everyone looks so different. It's amazing, actually. We're all made up of the same substance, but everyone is different. It's like, we're not all just copies of each other, But ultimately, this body will eventually decay, and whether it's burned or cremated or whatever, it's still going to go back into the elements, So
Is it recommended also for the women to follow the standard, or if the husband goes up to take Vanaprast and she's looked after by the sons, then will she attain the same destination as her husband, or does she have to undergo the same austerities as her husband to attain the same destination?
Well, by her following and being a chaste wife, then she automatically gets the benefit of her husband's austerities. So she doesn't have to. Devahuti and under the care of Kapila Muni. And we see that once Kapila Muni had finished instructing his mother, he leaves, then she's on her own. And she performs austerity. She just has matted locks. She gives up detachment from her she was living in a palace. She just gave up attachment to all her kind of nice clothes and the comforts of the palace. And she let her hair grow long, matted locks, and she just gave up. She became detached, even living within the palace. So she followed her husband and the instructions of her son and attained perfection. So we can see the examples of these chaste ladies. They followed their husbands. Some of them entered the fire, like Gandhari and others. And some of them just continued on performing these austerities. So like Prabhupada said, when the husband takes sannyas, the wife can stay and look after the deities and other similar Krishna conscious activities at the temple. Because actually, like the forest is considered like the mode of goodness, so the cities are like the mode of ignorance and passion. Forest is like the mode of goodness, but the temple is like Vaikuntha, Prabhupada said. So we're actually in a higher, better place. And our austerities is more on the line of bhakti yoga, performing in line with it. So we can fast, but we fast on Ekadashis. We can perform more austerities like minimize reduce our comforts, minimize, the amount of things we have, detach, and also eat simply, clothe simply, live simply in our situation. And yeah, that's the way we can apply it in the modern day. I was listening to Devi Mataji, and some of the points I came up with were from her. She was saying all these kind of things that we can just simplify our life in such a way that we become more, instead of external achievements, we do internal achievements. We try to become more absorbed in our hearing and chanting and deepen our Krishna consciousness. And that way we can apply all these principles in the modern day. We may not be wearing tree bark and, all these things, but and also we're a preaching movement, so it's not that we don't take a bath, we don't brush our hair, we still have to have a good appearance so that we can present, for preaching purposes, we can attract people to Krishna consciousness, because that's a higher principle, isn't it? So that's how we can apply it to the modern world.
Implanted, getting really nice white teeth, and old age, all your teeth drop out, so that there's less attraction between the opposite sexes. So they're trying to reverse the whole process.
Well, Krishna's created, it's just like it's a natural sequence of events, that eventually we come to this point of life, a phase of life where things start decaying, and that's for a purpose, because we need to start becoming detached from our body. And if we have a very healthy body, how are we going to become detached from it? If our hair is falling out, our teeth are falling out, we start realizing that actually we're coming to the last stage of life. We need to start becoming detached, because we're all, the body's not functioning properly. So it's like a warning that actually we're coming to the last part of our life. So we start becoming more serious in our Krishna consciousness, we start getting serious in the spiritual life. But what happens in the material world is they're still trying to become young, so they have all these teeth implants and hearing aids and this and that and anti-wrinkle creams, and so they still want to look young, you see, and dye their hair so they don't look grey, instead of accepting actually the body is becoming old, and we have to start understanding something else now, not just get so absorbed in material life, worldly life. We have to start, like even the sleeping, people take sleeping pills, but the natural sequence of events is that you reduce your sleeping as you get older. It naturally happens. So, but they don't accept this, they want to take sleeping pills. So that you can spend more time in cultivating spiritual life.
If you look in the old folks,
Poems that they're not actually, they're not using the last few years of their life, in spiritual activities, but it's more just some mundane enjoyment, or they play golf, or they do all these mundane activities to enjoy life till the very end. That's not what it's for. So they miss the boat, and they just vegetate, sitting in front of TV, not knowing what the purpose of life is. It's very sad. Anything else? Okay. Any last comments? Okay. Granth Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Shri Prabhupada ki jai, Shri Godintai Mai Pushashi ki jai, Gaur Premanand.